All right, I'm glad to introduce you to our two primary presenters today. We have Melissa Bond and Jayoung from the University of Kentucky. Melissa is an extension specialist and program leader for art extension, and Jayoung is an associate professor in landscape architecture. They've got a group of colleagues that will also be co-presenting along with them, so they will introduce themselves as they go. All right, Melissa and Jayoung.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And we really appreciate all of you zooming in today for our workshop. We're excited to share with you some of the work that we've been doing in Kentucky, and we hope that you'll see some ideas that spark some creativity for you and learn about what to look forward with this toolkit. For our team, I want to go ahead and introduce those that are in the webinar on our team, just so you'll know as we tag off to other people to share their excerpts that you'll know who they are. I am the program leader for our Arts Extension program at the University of Kentucky, and Dr. Jayoung is our Associate Extension Professor with the Department of Landscape Architecture. We told each of the team to just wave Brady Bunch style so that you'll know who they are in the video. We have Ann Stevens. She is an Arts Extension agent in Greenup County, Kentucky. We have Christy Porter, who is an Arts Extension agent in Pike County, Kentucky. Then we have Ryan Sandwick, who's with our Department of Landscape Architecture, as well as with CEDIK in my department. And then we have Stephanie Richards, who is our extension specialist, who's placed in our University of Kentucky College of Fine Arts. So we have several members that are housed within our College of Agriculture, but also we have Stephanie housed within our College of Fine Arts to create that link for us between the colleges. So let's get started. So first, we have to acknowledge that this entire toolkit and project was funded by an NEA grant for our town, knowledge building and creative placemaking. And the Arts and Placemaking Core of our Community Economic Development Initiative of Kentucky, which is our CED department in the College of Agriculture. It's the department under which our Arts Extension program is housed. And we are partnering with NACDEP to do this Wednesday webinar. So as we move through today, I want to share with you that our overall project goal and the objectives that we had in creating this toolkit so that you know the background behind it. And then Dr. Koo will share the research side of it, where they really dove in and analyzed 15 years worth of data from our Kentucky Arts Extension program in order to tie in the research and evidence-based programming that we want to share with you. And then in the second part, we'll actually share excerpts from the toolkit. So I do want to say, I know in the original proposal, we said we would be doing hands-on art activities with you all. And we were so excited to be able to do that back when we were going to have NACDEP in person. But I'm sure you all understand that we've adapted the presentation to be more of an overview of the activities that you could do hands-on if we could all be together. We couldn't just figure out a realistic way to do this arts engagement walk through art activities over Zoom with people all over the country. But if anyone else has a great idea to do it, let us know and we'll try it next time. And then we'll share some key findings and summaries. So overall, with this toolkit, our goal was, we've been cracking along in Arts Extension for 15 years now in Kentucky. And one of the barriers that we had is that we didn't have other programs in existence yet to pull from. And so we couldn't integrate this as a research-based approach. So one of our goals was, now that we've been doing this for 15 years, how can we really integrate this creative placemaking wave that's been happening really over the past couple of years, and then disseminate that knowledge based on practices we've already had? And how can we support other cooperative extension systems to support their own local community investments based upon some of our models and best practices that we've learned definitely through trial and error over the past several years. And we feel like we fine-tuned several of them to really be something replicable. And our objective was to develop this creative placemaking toolkit that really is built upon our research through our county-based and state-level data that we've been reporting for all this time, and then expand it to share the knowledge through NACDEP. And we also hope to share it on e-extension soon as the toolkit's finished to introduce that to you either as a downloadable copy. We'll sort that out when we come to it, depending on whether we're all able to gather next year. So the first thing is to know, what is our working definition of creative placemaking? There's a lot of definitions that float around out there, but this is the one that we have really focused on and really zeroed in on as our guiding principle for this project. We look at animating spaces, rejuvenating the physical structures and streetscapes, and improving business vitality, public safety, and just bringing together people in creative ways. I know you all have probably run just as many extension meetings as we have, and after a while, those meetings can get pretty stale. So if there's opportunities to infuse creativity or new approaches to get those conversations going and spark some of that creativity, we think that this is the way to do it. And from that will benefit not only maybe your county extension councils or your local governing boards, but entrepreneurs in your community and cultural industries, and also training up our next generation of workforce to have that cultural competency that is so valuable. So a little background for you all, just for those who aren't familiar with the Arts Extension program in Kentucky. We've delivered arts programming to communities for the past 15 years. And we started with just one agent in one pilot county. And then from that, the program, they piloted, they tested it for a few years, and then word got out that, oh, well, that county has an arts extension agent. We want one too. How do we get one? So the program spread to other counties. And as the years have changed, the makeup of the program has changed too. We have county-based agents. We have 3 counties where there are dedicated full-time arts agents working on the ground, just like 4-H, Ag, FCS, other programs. And one thing in Kentucky, we do not have on the ground CED agents. So the Arts Extension program really fills that gap by doing community development through the arts. We have some counties that their budget didn't allow for a full-time agent, but they still wanted to provide that arts programming within their county. So they've hired a program assistants that focus directly on just one arts discipline to do really just intensive engagement in one arts area versus that comprehensive CED approach that an agent can lend. Then we have regional specialists, some of our positions that cover a 12 to 14 county region in order to focus heavily on regional development in some of our areas in the state. Then we have state level specialists who provide that programming and support to our agents as well as directly to our communities. And this project studied the arts extension programs and analyzed, based on their reporting data, all of the impacts they've had in these communities, and tracked the growth of the impact as the program expanded from being directly in only 3 counties to having that state level resource. We're up to 9 full-time arts extension employees now in Kentucky, and we hope to continue growing over the years. A little bit about our mission and vision is that we work to improve the quality of life for communities through a multidisciplinary arts approach, and also to provide that CED engagement. One of the things we hear the most often is like, oh, wow, that's so cool that you all do arts in Kentucky, but we could never do that. We're too much of an ag state, or we're too focused on this or that. And that's not true. You all can do it too. I know plenty of 4-H agents who maybe their training was like animal science. They're really good with goats, great goat clubs. They never knew how to do a country ham though until they took a training on it. And that's the way I see arts as well. You personally may not be the best artist in the world, and that's okay, but you can definitely train and build your capacity enough to learn how to share it and teach it in your state. Two major brackets that we have is our creative placemaking efforts and our arts engagement efforts. And the creative placemaking, we're just really trying to embellish the strength of that local small community and build on their assets and help those local individuals empowered to realize what they have to offer and what they could do in their own communities. And then we have direct arts engagement workshops, such as hands-on pottery workshops or theater workshops or painting, any of those things that is that direct arts engagement to build up those high quality arts skills. And having these creative expressions has shown that it opens your citizens up to a new way to view their community. It builds their personal pride as well as their community pride. And overall, our program has been sustaining over the years by having this two-tiered approach to our arts engagement. So now I'm going to introduce Dr. Jayoung, and she's going to go into the research side of this toolkit and the background behind the things they've found by researching our program.
Hello, I'm Jayoung, and I just wanted to briefly also mention that the research part we already presented during a next up session over the summer this summer. So today I wanted to provide a brief summary of what we presented in the summer so that it kind of bridges where we're going from the background to how the toolkit got developed thus far. Ultimately, as Melissa has been mentioning, our ultimate goal is to share how arts and culture can serve as engines for community and economic development through how extension programmings and programs and activities have helped educate, guide, and engage people in their communities and their stakeholders for the betterment of communities. And particularly for our purpose, we're looking at the evidence from the fine arts extension programming that we have on record. Although Melissa has mentioned that we have a diverse team, the research and particularly focus more on the reporting data that our agents have reported throughout the years. So how we did it was we systematically looked into all the fine arts reporting data. These include program plans of work, impact statements, or so-called, we call it success stories in Kentucky, but also the detailed statistical contact numbers that our agents have been reporting related to these programs, activities, or events that they have delivered in their communities. So through extensive coding, we went through numerous program plans, success stories for about data for about 14 years. We matched up and lined up program plans, these success stories, and the statistical contact data so that we could see that linkage of offering the program, who has participated in those programs, so which kind of tales have we impacted, and the outcomes. What were some strengths? What were some lessons learned from those program efforts that our agents have been delivering? The thread throughout that we have connected through was what Kentucky Extension has set up, which were major area programs. Earlier on, when we only had 1 or 2 agents, we only had about 3 categories related to the arts. Over the years, the category of major art area programs that are related to arts has expanded to 12 by 2019. So as I mentioned, we analyzed through a fixed method model to see how these programs have impacted who and how and what lessons we could take away from our agents' programming that were delivered in Kentucky. Some examples of the contact results were that there was a divide between adults and youth. A lot of times our extension programmings are gearing toward adult audiences. However, there have been years where programming has been targeting some of the youth audiences in our communities. Sometimes those were in partnership with our 4-H agents or other local partners and stakeholders in the communities. In terms of gender distribution, not too different between male, female, or those who identified as those identities, but sometimes it would be relating to the type of programming that was offered in our communities. So over time, as I mentioned, we found that the major area program categories has been much more specified as time went on, and in the end, we have a range of arts-related titles or areas that our agents have been reporting on, such as community arts engagement, performing arts, tourism, economic development, all the way to even some of the allied goals, such as healthy lifestyle choices that are tied in with our arts programs. As for our program, as I mentioned, agents also have been able to expand and extend their areas of arts expertise beyond what they were initially trained in. And that was evident in that some of the later years, we were finding extension programming that was conducted in County A also being conducted in County B, or vice versa, where an arts programming, arts performance type of activity might have been reported under County B that was also being now reporting in County A. So our agents have also been tag teaming, or sometimes offering some of these expertise among themselves to deliver some of the activities that were successful in the other communities. So as a collective, as we mentioned, the Arts and Placemaking Corps of UK Extension we have found several creative placemaking efforts across the board that we believe can be applied to community and economic development efforts beyond Kentucky. These can be easily applicable depending on where the interest is and where some collaborative efforts can be strengthened. So with that said, in our toolkit, we're going to be sharing some of the activities that might be tailored specifically in one arts area or a discipline or a background. But also, other half of our toolkit, we are also sharing some of the applied disciplinary type of activities, and we'll kind of share as as Melissa kind of shares the type of activities that we're going to be sharing today.
This part is about our toolkit development. And we want to share with you, walk through with you to give you an introduction of what the toolkit will be. I don't think I mentioned earlier, but as I'm sure you're all aware, we've had a few hiccups this year in doing some in-person programming. So that has set us on a bit of a delay, and we got an extension for this grant. So we originally thought we would have this toolkit completely finished in order to present at our NACDET, but we've had to really pivot our approach to collecting the data and how we'll do that. So we will have it ready in March, and we would love at the end of the attending, if you put your email or contact information in the chat. By attending today, we will send you a copy of the completed toolkit. So for now, we're just giving you a little bit of a teaser and some trailers of what you can expect to have. So again, our goals, we are reiterating on this, and I know probably to a lot of you in Extension, you're thinking, well, of course, evidence-based, that's the whole approach of Extension, but that was just really important for us because we were so proud to finally have evidence, enough evidence of arts and Extension work that we could concretely say that what we are doing is truly evidence-based and how it integrates the different areas of arts and our community design and our placemaking programs that we do along with our arts engagement. We wanted this to be comprehensive with a range of activities. So it's a selection of items that maybe a couple of them are just simple activities that you could do easily with little prep in a low budget in some of your meetings, ranging up to full-fledged intensive arts engagement in a community that will take place over several months or even years of growth and development. So this can help to educate and train and support everyone on these comprehensive scalable activities so that no matter what you do in Extension, there's going to be a few activities that will apply to you that you can share. And then also community empowering. It's critical in arts programming that the community drives the program and that the community is a participant hand in hand going along these processes. It does no good for us at the campus level to drop into a community and design something for them without including them. So we really care about activities that help you help empower your own community. So we have a range of activities, but with each one we have, we're going to include for you how to evaluate it, a sample budget, how to implement, some tips and tricks, quite frankly, that we probably learned the hard way on what you could do on this or not do, depending on how you approach it. And there'll be 13 activities in the entire toolkit, with each one about 4 to 6 pages, and then your sample evaluation form for each activity. And on the list here on this slide that you can see, the ones with the check mark that are orange are the ones that we're going to highlight today to just give you a snapshot of what that activity is and how it will work. Here's the layout. It was really important to us that this felt user-friendly and that it felt to showcase the creativity behind the projects and what we're trying to share with you. So each activity will have the summary, which is just the brief summary, as well as keywords, kind of like a hashtags, but not really, but keywords there that we can really, you can flip through to see like, oh, what is it I need today to use, or what will this apply for me? And then we give you a deeper background of it that really shows how this activity is relevant and the way it was developed and created and how long we've been doing this activity in Kentucky. Then after that, we have our process and our explanation of how you practically can implement this program. What do you need to set up? Who do you need at the table? How do you make this happen? And then the outcome that you can expect, that from based on our experience, some of the outcomes that we've experienced. So there's a good chance you'll experience those or similar outcomes on your own. We also share the application of how this can be applied in other communities. We were intentional in selecting programs or activities that we've done in Kentucky that are not so intrinsically tied to the place that there's no way that you could do it in a state that doesn't have mountains, for example. We made sure that that the prompts are getting you to focus on your place, whatever it is, instead of just replicating ours. And then our key summary that shares just our points, our lessons to be learned, and then our diagram or checklist, which was some of our team just listened and interviewed the agents and read what they wrote and summarized about their activity, and then just went creative with some pens and pencils to try to make a fun flow sheet almost of steps that you can follow. So I'm going to introduce the first activity, and this is how to use creative writing to engage your community. This is adapted from our Kentucky State Poet Laureate about 5 years ago. Her name is George Ella Lyon, and she had this poem called Where I'm From. And the reason she created it was because she had spent a lot of time being told by other people where she was from. There's a lot of news coverage about Kentucky that isn't good, that we feel like there's a lot of time people are telling us who we are, where we're from. And she decided to take ownership of that. So she started making lists of tangible physical things in her community that she identifies with. And we have used this activity as a writing prompt to encourage people to write when you're bringing a group together. Use this template to write where I'm from. And it's very simple. It's not one of those rhyming poems or sonnets where you have to put a lot of effort into it. It's really just a writing prompt of I am from, fill in the blank. It can be I am from cornbread and mashed potatoes. I am from chasing dragonflies at night. Prompts like that. And we have seen in the groups we've used this in, ranging from the crustiest old cattlemen I've ever met, down to fourth graders who are excited to plan a school mural, that this prompts conversation. Also, this is very, very important to me because if you've ever been in a workshop with me for 5 minutes, you know I hate icebreakers. I hate them. I am passionately against having to get up and run around and meet people and make small talk with someone that I don't really know. It's anxiety inducing. So this is a non-icy icebreaker. It's for my introverts out there who really want to have their own time to reflect without having to run around and scramble. So the way it works, you can see our flow chart there. I'm not sure how big it is on your screen, but this is an example of how we show you to gather your materials, and we'll have those in the toolkit, the poem and the template, some paper for everyone, some pencils, plan the event, advertise it, host the event by having these prompts and then just share it out with each other to see where it goes. And the key outcome we have seen is that it creates this shared definition of community. I've really enjoyed using this with planning groups who are, or city councils who are trying to figure out what is their brand and what is the direction they want to take their community towards, and how can they engage their residents in this process. So we've used, I'm not sure if you've heard the model of community engagement that focuses on what do we want to preserve, what do we want to improve, and what do we want to create in our communities. But we have found that this particular activity really leads you through those prompts to create this shared collective idea of where we are from, whether that's at your very small community level or as a collective state level. You find out where you're from with this activity. So next, I'm going to pass this off to Ann Stevens. She's the County Extension Agent in Greenup County, and she's going to show you some of her chapter about Breakfast with the Arts. Ann?
Thanks, Melissa. Hi, I'm Ann. I'm in Greenup County in Kentucky. And Breakfast with the Arts is truly one of my favorite things that I get to do as an agent. It is a program that was actually brought to me by a teacher in one of my local schools when she recognized that she had students who loved the arts, all these different aspects of the arts, but things that were different than what they really got to share at school. We have band and choir and orchestra and visual art in school, but we also have kids that love to sing the kind of stuff maybe that they hear on the radio, or songs that they've sung with their family for years, or kids that dance or take piano lessons. And those are things that our students don't often get to share at school. Things that the teachers don't know about them. It is a window into their lives that is different from what they get to do in school. And you always have those students as well as adults who will step into a performance opportunity and just turn it on and shine when you don't even know that that is a part of them until you have that experience. So Breakfast with the Arts touches on those things. It's also a way to work together as a whole extension office. As Melissa mentioned, the arts agent is one of the agents in the office with 4-H and FCS and Ag. And in my office, we work really well together, and we love doing things that can cross programming. Breakfast with the Arts is a beautiful example of that because it's breakfast. It is a performance opportunity during breakfast. The audience is actually eating breakfast in the cafeteria. So I get to give a little breakfast commercial, or sometimes it's a student that I have worked with that takes on the public speaking component of being the host of the show and talks about the importance of breakfast and how to choose a healthy breakfast and what the school offers to you for breakfast and why we see those things when we come into the cafeteria for breakfast and things like that. So I have some FCS components. Sometimes there's materials that I can take with me and hand out. It's also something that a 4-H agent can do because we are building skills in our students. It is very much a youth development activity. As an arts agent, I have performance experience. I am a musician and a performer. So I'm focused on that, but you don't have to be that person to host Breakfast with the Arts. And the Toolkit will give you the information that you need to successfully identify and rehearse and organize the students that make up the performance event. We will give you details on how to go through that process in such a way that you are sure that you are creating a performance experience that is positive for your students and for your school, for your cafeteria, for the school staff, everyone that has a part of this. It is very empowering for the student And I have often had teachers tell me after they have seen a Breakfast with the Arts event happen, they'll say, wow, I had little Susie in class and I had no idea that she could do that. I didn't know that that child was really gonna turn that on. I had no idea. And it is a wonderful way to show something that a student is passionate about that, again, they don't always get to show in school. So the outcomes are really relevant to not only the student performer, but the school as a whole, even the cafeteria. Something that we saw that we did not even expect is that because our audience, which is just kids eating breakfast in the cafeteria, because they are eating breakfast and they have to purchase breakfast to be in the audience, the revenue from breakfast on that day at the school really skyrockets. And it's important to communicate that well with the people in the cafeteria, because the way they prepare what they offer for breakfast is a little different than a regular day. So we found that that is a really important component. And we're proud of the fact and excited about the fact that we've been doing this for such a long time that Breakfast with the Arts did become one of our state featured programs and is one of the choices that we have in our reporting system. I have taken these kids out to perform outside of school in some community activities, and it's because of my time with them in this program that I was able to identify them as interested and capable in doing something outside of the school. So it is a multi-tiered thing that the students can experience. You can track how they become more and more capable on their own and responsible for themselves to come to an event prepared to have a positive experience. And again, that's what we're trying to do, is create that positive experience. Breakfast with the Arts is a great program, and I encourage anybody to take it on. Thank you to you all. Next up, we have Christy Porter, and she is our Fine Arts agent in Pike County. Miss Christy.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to turn my video off just so I don't cut out completely, save a little bandwidth. I'm in Pike County, Kentucky. The Fine Arts Extension does programming in collaboration with Artist Collaborative Theater in Elkhorn City, Kentucky, which is a nonprofit 501c3 community theater. They're also in, like I said, Elkhorn City in Pike County. In the toolkit, we go in depth with some of the processes and programs we've had good successes with. I'd like to give you a little background on the theater first. ACT began in Pike County in 2002 with the production of the Kentucky Cycle at Breaks Interstate Park Amphitheater. And I realized that the idea of starting a theater can be overwhelming or daunting, but the idea of ACT was really just that of two people who enlisted the help of their daughter, who happened to be Stephanie Richards. And she just so happened to be studying theater at the time, who also just so happens to be in the Zoom with us today. Together with just the three of them at first, they worked to recruit volunteers, and they brought that first production to fruition. So ACT was started in 2002. Over the next 6 years, the community came together, a board of directors was established, and productions continued at the park. But they also continued at a local high school gym. They took place in a library, and they also took place on a flat of land next to the riverbank in Elkhorn City. The process of building a community theater is complex, but it can really be broken down into recruiting volunteers, fundraising, securing a space. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a full theater. A gym floor will do just fine. Choosing a script, and there are royalty-free scripts out there. Rehearsing and building your set, costumes, props, and stage. Marketing and advertising can be inexpensive or even free through word of mouth, flyers, and social media. And when you go out to recruit, you're really going to find that people are going to be receptive to this, especially schools. Teachers, we found, are so eager to provide students with extra activities. In 2008, 6 years later, A 120-seat black box theater was built and opened for programming through grants, donations, and a loan. And sorry, I know I'm skipping around a little on the PowerPoint, but when you talk about having a goal of creative placemaking where the community, like artists, schools, government, and other people come together to create an arts and cultural hub, theater and community theater in particular is such a good example of that. With ACT, since the theater opened, other arts projects have begun to take place in the small town of Elkhorn. Elkhorn has a population of, I think last count was 952 people. So there's been an elk project where local artists decorate fiberglass elk statues and place them near businesses. We actually have one sitting near the theater. Murals have been installed and are in development. There's an art gallery that was opened downtown, and etc. ACT is all volunteer from the actors and directors to costumers. Everyone's a volunteer, and programming is year-round. And those who participate learn artistic skills like acting, lighting, sound, and set design, costume design, and others. But they also learn so many essential skills: responsibility, time management, confidence, social skills. The list really goes on and on. All this results in an increase in human capital in the region. Students who participate in the free after-school theater classes, their parents have reported they do better in school and at home as a result of the classes. In fact, the average GPA of students who participate is 3.8, and ACT has a 100% placement rate into college or job training programs, 100%. And 100% of those students graduate those programs with a 3.6 GPA. And that's not just into theater, that's into various fields like nursing, therapy, law, and we have a long list of those as well. We've seen huge improvements in students. One student who I'm particularly close to, he went from barely communicating when he joined in early elementary school, and he has just absolutely blossomed through theater as an 8th grader. It's community empowering. Many schools have had arts education cut from budgets. You gain an arts and entertainment hub in the region, and naturally economic growth and development will follow. The outcomes are sort of in the same category as community empowerment. We have artistic and essential skills, confidence, public speaking, time management. Those all are developing members. You gain an arts and entertainment hub in the region. You have an increase in tourism and tourism revenue for restaurants, retail businesses. Restaurants in Elkhorn City reported an increased revenue before and after productions. Retail stores also reported increases in sales in the evenings of shows. You also have a huge increase in community pride. Applications, you collaborate with local organizations like schools. You can easily gain student volunteers that way, and you can also bring productions into classrooms. It's easily adaptable depending on the budget size. Like I said, you can find royalty-free scripts out there. You can also use gym floors and the number of actors and audience. And then creative placemaking. It all comes back to community creative placemaking. Theater in itself is creative placemaking. And I'm going to turn this over to Ryan Sandwick. He is the Community Design Program Manager at the University of Kentucky.
Thank you so much, Kristy. Because it's 2020, the neighbor literally started mowing the lawn as Anne was speaking, so if there's a lot of background noise, I apologize. So as Kristy mentioned, I'm the Community Design Program Manager at UK, and so a big part of my role is to engage communities about their kind of built environments and their downtowns and what they would like to see. So my colleagues and I were in one of our communities in Eastern Kentucky, and they were about to have a festival come up. And so we were brainstorming different ways to engage people and participants at that festival about how they could get some feedback. And so what we landed on was a portable chalkboard inspired by the Before I Die boards that have been installed in cities across the world, but in a way that's a little less morbid and a little more place-based. And so with the Chalk and Talk, we were able to evolve it into a trifold chalkboard that could be easily set up and taken down in at a community festival. So the first time we did it was at an Oktoberfest in Whitesburg, Kentucky. And so as we set the board up, we used the prompt, next time I come to Whitesburg. And what was really interesting to us is that with the board that you see on there, in that picture, that people would respond based on kind of what was on each side. So if it's Whitesburg, it's like Whitesburg is great, it's wonderful, etc. And so what we were able to do with all this information is to take this, each of the comments that were written on there, and to transcribe them into a document. So like here, this event that you see in the picture here was in Paris, Kentucky. And you have a drawing on there. And you also see on the bottom left, you have that young child. On the bottom right, you have an older gentleman drawing on it. So what we've been able to realize is what this board, and everyone knows how to use chalk. And so it's a really accessible way to get feedback from people at a festival for both local and visitors alike. And so what we do is, as I mentioned, we transcribe everything. And then what we realize is that as you start writing all the comments down, they begin to go into buckets. So like here in Paris, they had community pride, they had retail that they would like, etc. And so it's been a really great tool that we then use to present to both the partners that let us set up at the event and to local stakeholders, elected officials. So we take that final report with a quick summary of everything we had heard, because it is a chalk and talk. And so what you hear in the conversations you have with the boards are as important as what's actually written on there. So after we're done transcribing everything, we then share it with our partner, because of course you want permission to be able to set up at an event. And then we share it with our local authorities. And it's become a really easy way to get feedback without requiring action from anybody. And it's very kind of approachable and non-threatening. And we've been able to kind of share this with different people across the country. And I believe in North Carolina, Extension has adopted this, and Mississippi, Main Street program, and a community activist in Tennessee has taken this on. And so it's become a really easy way to get feedback from the community. And the boards themselves were built for about $250 over a weekend. I'm not very handy, and I was still able to kind of pull it together. And as part of this toolkit, we'll actually have some instructions and links on how to actually build these in the community themselves. And so this has been a really great entry-level tool for us, and we were excited to share it with you all. So now I am going to hand off to Dr. Jayoung from the Department of Landscape Architecture at UK.
Hello, the last activity we're going to share today is radical walking. And this activity actually has been presented at NACDB in a previous year, but I'm going to briefly explain, kind of share how and why we're presenting back into the Creative Placemaking Toolkit. So initially, radical walking, the tool itself, came out of, it came out because of a frustration of town hall meetings. So with that issue, another colleague in our university and an actual Community Development Corporation director, we all brainstormed in terms of how can we hear from voices from people who are actually living in their landscapes and in their environments, and bring those creative ideas to life. So that's where radical walking started, and it has been developed to be a train-to-trainer type of activity. So in terms of the process itself, we have been facilitating leaders, project managers, or planners to recruit their own volunteer groups and leaders for these walking groups, and in small groups, for 3 to 5 ideal, less than 10. So as a small group, people are actually walking about the environment that they would like to enhance for whatever planning purposes that they might have. In that process, everyone is encouraged to use all their 5 senses in terms of what they see, what they hear, what they would like to taste or touch in the future in their outdoor environments, as also a process of comparing with what is actually out there today. So after the activities, the walking itself, we also have a survey component to it. We've compiled some of these observations, reflections that the groups have been voicing, but we also asked them to fill out surveys. Depending on project types, they might also be a mapping activity or a sticky note activity combined to it. But after these small engaged activities and walks, The facilitator or the project lead also compiles all these information, interpret and see what can be reflected, how it could be represented, or also express creative and bring out the creativity in everyone in their community to finish that project's goal. So all in all, it's a very empowering process to help people express their ideas and visions for creative efforts in a community's placemaking. In terms of outcomes, we've had a lot of different type of people actually engage in these radical walking activities. We've had youth groups, we had adult groups, we had different genders or ethnicity, race groups, depending on what kind of project and who was leading that activity. Some of those ideas that were shared would range from objective, literally what they saw or touched, to some of the subjectives, what they would think could happen, what they would see, like to see that could be fun that could happen, whether it was practical to bold, short-term to long-term. So a lot of ideas to help embed into a placemaking endeavor for the community efforts. In terms of how some of these radical walking activities have been applied, it was initially started with an effort to help a cultural plan be developed. Over the years, we have also applied this and helped with a committee on a park design. We've also utilized it in downtown revitalization efforts, among others. We have also seen a lot of enthusiasm when we actually presented this activity during a walk conference in at a local level, a local state level. So all in all, it was an easy activity that anyone, as long as they have the tool itself, could go through the questions that they would like to ask, compile some questions that they would further like to adapt into the project and goal. So it has been successful through a couple of different efforts, but as I mentioned, it is not an activity in itself. It was a process to fill in and bridge to another level of a project. That was a short introduction to radical walking, but all in all, the overall goal of our toolkit development was that we wanted to provide extension educators, whether you're in different areas of extension, but also community and economic development efforts, those activities and tools that we thought was have evidence that it was successful, so that you could take it on, you could be equipped with those tools and apply it in your own settings. You could identify its needs, you could identify how it could be incorporated into your needs, but in the end also having a set idea of how we also were able to assess and evaluate what worked, what didn't, what could be improved the next time. So in the end, we hope that by you all having access to this toolkit, that you will be able to engage with your communities creatively in creative ways, or help people express their creativity, that you would be able to strike conversations within your own communities while you are helping either projects or extension programs be a little bit more creative, generate new ideas, but all in all, that you would be able to spark synergy within and with other extension programming efforts, depending on what other program areas that you have in your institutions. So with that said, checking the time, we would like to open up the room to questions, comments, and or any suggestions that you would like to share with us today.
And I can go ahead and answer the ones that I see in the chat, if that's okay, Nicole, and then we'll be open for more. Will that work for you?
That's perfect.
Okay. Someone asked about projects of funding or potential grant opportunities. One thing I've become aware of recently is that the public health sector is about to be an area, at least in Kentucky, and I think at a national level, they've been focusing on creative placemaking. And now with COVID and the high need for public outdoor spaces, we're looking at those closely, because we think that that's a perfect area to access some funding to do some of this stuff, particularly geared toward creative ways to engage the public, to get them outside in those spaces. So I'd watch those funding streams. For the question, is it the intention that these tactics build into a larger plan? And how is that larger plan facilitated? Is it also creative based? In some of our communities, yes. We have been helping with strategic planning over a comprehensive creative approach to the community. And this has involved even things like Ryan coming in and helping build up on public park spaces and creative mixed use facilities and advising on that. But this toolkit specifically is really more of a primer of individual activities that can be tied together to progressively lead you to something bigger, or just choose your own adventure and do one at a time to engage your community. And Stephanie's also mentioned in the chat, yes, if you're a program leader in your state or want information about more about the organizational structure or our reporting program development, feel free to let us know and we can give you that information. Are there any other questions?
And also, folks, you can feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question verbally.
Hi, this is Stephanie, and this is, while we're waiting for other questions, I do think it's important, and it's one of my bannership statements, is that we are not simply developing art or artists. We are developing community and arts, community and economic development through the arts. So making the world a better place through the arts, not just creating artists or art activities. And on funding, don't be wary of looking to your local government, city government, county government, and state government. When you make personal relationships with those official leaders, they can help find money at times.
So there was a question that I put in there. Usually in most programs or programs that have to do with community development or working with the local communities, you face some challenges. Are there any challenges, at least for starters, who would want to do this and for them to be aware of and say, okay, this is what you may find challenging in your community, but it's still working hard to get it done. I know in Fayette, in Ohio here, we have a similar program. We just haven't put it into your, like a, what do you call it, a curriculum for study, but we also have, every year we have a program we call Art on the Square, which is very, at the beginning, we had just like, I think there were 12 people who participated. That was 3 years ago. The second year we did it, it went out to 36. The third year we did it, we had 46 participants. The community are always willing for something like that to come out and be part of. But sometimes we had some challenges starting the program. We wanted to go through the schools to see if once the kids are there, if they wanted to do it. Then we realized that, okay, one school was interested. This is not the whole school, this is just an art person. But another school, the art person was like, okay, I would try, but we just couldn't get the person to be part of it. And we just went in and started the program, the project ourselves, and then it's growing now. We had people coming from other counties that are making the program to grow. I'm just thinking of any challenges, potential challenges that you may face that we need to know if you want to start.
And one challenge we have seen is because this is in the history of extension, this is a relatively new and sometimes considered an out there idea, is that we have found that we tend to have to do a lot more legwork in the beginning to get people on board for the program, or really put those hours in, because just because you may be creative and have that vision and see how all of the pieces can fit, sometimes that's a barrier for other people. And so we recommend just being willing to try and know that it won't be perfect. And that's part of the process too, and that's absolutely okay.
That's good. I mean, saying that has made me think of something else. You see, we didn't just start with that program, Art on the Square. We started with creative placemaking to use it as an alternative economic tool to revitalize our downtown. Mm-hmm. So we had a grant from Ohio State University where we had students come in and they had conversations with community stakeholders. They met with the city council, the city manager, the commissioner. They went to villages to meet with village mayors to discuss what are the things that, in terms of the culture, looking at the culture aspect, culture capital that you have in your community that you wanted to explore. And some of this came up, and then we presented it to say, okay, do you think that if we use art as a placemaking process or project, do you think it will fit into your community? And it was amazing. The responses that we had was very amazing. And that's how our process started in Ohio.
Very good. All right. I think presenters, you have done a fantastic job of wowing us with this great tool that you've put together and been able to implement. Please, you all take advantage. Jayoung and Melissa have provided their contact information. This is being recorded. There was a question about sharing the slides. So team, I don't know if you want to go ahead and do that, or just because it's being recorded, that it can be accessed that way as well. Thank you all who put your emails in the chat, so the team will have your contact information to be able to follow up with you. All right, we don't have any further questions at this time. Thank you so much, Melissa, Jayoung, and team. Thanks for joining us. Please be safe this holiday. Enjoy the rest of 2020, and we'll see you in the new year.